So let's talk about it, fellas. Let's talk about it, right? So I shared this tweet in the group chat. We spoke about it prior to starting the pod. Tim, you already kind of alluded to some of the things that this person mentioned. There's this. I guess technically he's a current game developer because he's still technically making games, quote unquote. He has people buying skins for a game that he's working on that's not even out yet. But that's a conversation for another time. On Twitter, he goes by Grummz. His name is Mark Kern. He's one of the OG creators of Diablo 2 and World of Warcraft. Right, so he's heralded as issuing some of the biggest MMO games that we've ever seen within the industry. Now, like I said prior to the pod starting, we are a pod that focuses on nuance, right? We don't swing necessarily to one direction or the other. We try to find the shades of gray through most of these topics, at least for discussion, right? And sometimes if we have a strong opinion about it, we'll lean more into that and let it be for where it's at. And with Grummz, I feel like there's certain things that I do think it is important that he's calling attention to. I don't think there's any issue. I don't take any issue with calling attention to, some of the things that kind of sweep underneath the journalistic rug of like, hey, you probably should be addressing some of these things because we're seeing the negative effect of it in ways that we don't quite realize. But when he started talking about South of Midnight, and there was a couple tweets in particular, one that you said, Tim, where he was talking about the race swap of the character, where he's like, oh, I could see, I found out through inside sources that, Hazel was originally a different race and now they made her black, and, Sweet Baby Ink was involved and things like that nature. And, we talked about this a little bit before prior to the pod, but I'm like, I don't see why that would be an issue when we're talking about a game, like you said, that was still early in development. One, we didn't know what race she was before you guys released a trailer. And two, it's like you're talking about a game that's centered in New Orleans, right? If you were to tell me a game was based in Texas and the first person I see is a Caucasian character with a wide brim hat, I'm not going to think twice about it, right? There's just certain things that you automatically, whether or not it's an accurate thing of that population or not, your brain automatically tunes into it when you think of a certain populous demographic area, right? So when you say like, oh, she was race swapped, oh, there was involvement from this company that most people don't really seem to care for. It's doesn't to me look like, okay, but what was your critique about the game? What is your issue with the game? What is it that you feel may be a concern with the actual game itself?
Yeah, like it kind of just goes to show you the hearts of people, man. Because we also have to understand, his. I would say this as a storyteller, you definitely have to understand history.
Mm-hmm.
History, especially with a certain particular race, it's still prevalent, bro. It's still prevalent. Their biases, their prejudices, it's still very, very much there.
Mm-hmm.
Very, and then sometimes I kind of feel like we've also into this. I mean, actually, it was always around. Everybody is kind of walking around with this alpha omega type of mindset, like it needs to be this way, my way, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of imprint themselves on so many other things that it needs to be this way because if it's not, then it's not good quality. No, it's not good quality to you.
Right.
To you. And that's why I always say beware of generalizations because like how you said, they haven't even talked about the game. You're talking about the company.
Yep.
Now the company, I looked them up. They have a decent track record from what I've seen that they've produced. Now I get it, and that's from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get it. Certain other people may have certain things to pick at, but then it goes back to what I said. That's an internal issue. That is something within yourself that you have a view about. But then you're kind of still missing the point. Are you going to invest into this game or not? If you're not, carry on. Carry on.
Yeah, shut up. Stop talking.
Just carry on. Because, there's gonna somebody who's gonna love the hell out of this, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Even, and I gotta say it out loud, even how crappy Star Wars Outlaws was to me, to some kid who's like, probably in the Disney Star Wars fanboy era, this might be his first iteration into this universe, and he's probably enjoying this game.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes back to that simple thing. Are you just enjoying it? Now, yes, as a person, we've been dealing with, gaming ever since our childhood. We've kind of evolved and developed in certain areas where we know what is really for us.
Right.
That's not my cup of tea.
Right.
That's not my cup of tea. It's just, but then, of course, especially in that type of industry base, bro, like, especially when it comes to Twitter, bro, Twitter, Twitter is fueled by toxicity. Like, it has to be fueled, like, you have to be fueled, like, especially like when it's like a counter or something like that, you need to say something that is striking to people to engage into your conversation.
Right. And you're absolutely right. Mm-hmm.
Everybody's looking for engagement. So yeah, he's revealed that he has issues in terms of when it comes to race. Now, if he wants those microscopes on him about that, that's on him.
So there's one tweet I want to read, and then S. Frank, I want to get your opinion on this as well. I think it's one of those things where it's like when someone knows better and you kind of know what they're doing, and it just kind of feels like, why are you encouraging this type of atmosphere, especially as a game developer, right? So at the bottom of this tweet, he says, "My thoughts. This is a beautiful looking game, and I can really sense the passion in the creative director's thoughts. I really hope SBI, which is short for Sweet Baby Inc., and MS, Microsoft, haven't ruined this game with DEI policies and by hiring SBI, and that the gameplay matches the visuals. That said, I don't think we should support any game with SBI involvement. Identify as non-binary." So to me, it's like, I don't see how you as a game developer, you know what I'm saying, could sit there and say, I think this game looks great. I think that I could really see their commitment to originality and source material and lore. That being said, if this company is even remotely involved, you shouldn't buy this. You mean to sit there and tell me that when you were making Diablo, you worked with Blizzard, my guy? Like, there's books, there's documentaries, there's still lawsuits going on about how your company was handling things. You were not working with, the 12 disciples of purity, right? When it comes to your game development, there's no company where everyone is going to be, I guess, clean-handed, right? There's always going to be someone within that company that has questionable morals, questionable motives, questionable intent, right? And I'm not sitting here trying to defend Sweet Baby Inc. or anything like that. I'm sure there's, just like anything else, there's people who have good intent within that company and people who are there just to watch the world burn, right? It is what it is. But I think when you're in a position like this, when you know the position you hold, when you know the legacy that people hold you in with your titles of what you brought to the world, World of Warcraft, Diablo 2, I think with that, you have a responsibility to not slip into the simplest form of rage baiting just for a couple of clicks, like you said, Tim, just for the engagement, just to be like, hey, if you even hear a whisper of this company, you shouldn't even support this game. This original game with the original story, with an original character that we need in this burst gaming bubble. So that's my thoughts on that. S. Rank, what do you think?
I think with South of Midnight, to me it felt organic. The only thing is, character design wise, she looks like the woman from what's that free to play game? I don't really play it at all. I never played it again. It's made by the guys who made I don't even remember the name of that game either. Jeez. I really don't care about those games. She looks like the character from free to play game where you give me some free to play games where it's like a
You
last man standing.
Bro.
Yeah, bro. Like, you can't just.
Oh, well, you guys on shooters?
Give me a
Okay, it's a shooter.
okay.
Okay, forget it. All right. No, I think she looks
only the
like
most
one of those
consumed genre of gaming.
Okay, you got PUBG. You got PUBG.
Apex Legends.
Apex Legends, yeah. Apex
There's
Legends.
a whole bunch of
Apex Legends. She looks like one of the characters from Apex Legends.
Bando. I think I know who you're talking about. Bando.
Yeah, so I kind of was like, that's, to me, I'm like, they should have probably used a different character model.
Actually, no. She looks like one of the newer characters that came.
Yeah,
she looks like Loba.
Yeah,
that's what she looks like.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Say,
Loba?
Yeah.
Loba, Apex from Apex
It's too,
Legends.
it's
Okay.
too, for someone who, it says, for example, someone who's a casual, the whole, if it's just a new IP, you probably want this character to stick out a little bit more. You could keep the character ethnicity, but I just think they should have probably tweaked that design because that's who I thought when I saw the. I'm like, yo, is this her game? And then they, expanded. They kind of.
I wouldn't go that far, bro, because that's an
Uh,
entirely different universe of things, bro.
And no,
Like,
yeah, go ahead,
no,
Tom.
no, you're right, but she does look like her. Like, I mean,
I think it's,
you
but
feel
I
me?
think also what
And it kind of fits the
helps.
Bayou theme, so it's like that's why I was saying that's the only reason
But
why
I
I
think,
said it.
but I think that goes to the graphical style, right? Like they're going for a stop motion feel with the game, right? So even if
Yeah.
she borrows traits from different characters, it's like the way they're presenting it is completely. We haven't seen anything like that in a bigger scale game, at least not to my
Hmm.
knowledge.
Hmm.
as long as ain't nobody got the Killmonger haircut,
We've already there's there's some
Um.
template of sense.
Yeah. So, I thought the game looked cool. I thought the game was fine. As far as the Sweet Baby, I think it's turning into how it's losing its potency because now games like Prince of Persia are suffering not because it's a bad game, but because of the character's ethnicity. And I think, the game is if the game is good, the Prince of Persia game to me, I was upset. Like, yeah, okay, but this is not Prince. They're not telling a story about Prince. He's actually what, the guardian of Prince? So
Yes.
to me, I felt like that was self-explanatory, and it wasn't a mainstay title. It was an indie game that they were doing. It was a like an art, more of an arcade style. So I would
Hmm.
expect a spin-off to feature a new character. It's not like it hasn't been done before. So I wasn't really upset with that. I just thought the haircut probably they could probably gave him something else.
Absolutely.
I was already
Absolutely.
tired of the Killmonger haircut. Hey, he's black, by the way. That's how the haircut feels like to me. So
It's like the
they
mini
should have
afro from the '90s. If you saw a black cartoon kid with the '90s, he had the
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 high
little
top fade, yeah,
the high top fade. Yeah,
high
man.
top fade. So I think they should have used a different aesthetic, but I didn't have a problem with it. To me, the game was amazing, and I think shame on Ubisoft for even disbanding the group, knowing that, listen, this is not our main state title. This is not normally how Prince of Persia is presented. So why don't you leave room for that to grow? This is a new installment. We can have this as a sub-genre or a sub series and be fine with that.
Yeah, you'll be able to take
I
him a lot
think
further than you'll be able to take Yasuke. But go
I
on.
all yeah, and I also feel like, listen, this is going to keep happening because of the taste that these companies have potentially already where they have been involved. They've also caused a lot of the games that people really love and cherish to not be the best of what they could be. So when people react like that, now I said this in other pods before, like, yo, people are gonna overreact because they are frustrated. And it's not an excuse, but we do it too as a community. Like, oh, man, and we now we looking at everything in red, so we can't tell that we looking
Hmm.
at everything with Terminator vision. So I'll be honest with you, there's a duality there. Um, I think people need to be more thorough in their responses and like not quick to just read the title and do a whole segment without watching the entire video of a response. So for
Hmm.
me, it's that's how he feels. Does it bother me? If we were to talk face to face, I would say, well, I didn't take it that way. I felt it made sense. In all honesty, like what you said earlier, like, oh yeah, in the Bayou, this game didn't feel like, DEI to me. It felt like, okay, this is something new.
It
This
just.
honestly felt organic. This
Hmm.
honestly made sense. Like, okay, if we're gonna play San Andreas, I don't want to see Michael amongst uh
Absolutely. No, I know exactly what you're trying to
you
say.
know what I'm saying? It's
Absolutely.
just, and
Absolutely.
even though I like that character, it just be like, what are you doing? what is this? Is this an isekai? You know, like
That
because
time I woke up
you
on a white man's body in
yeah,
Los
and then
Santos.
yeah, because for me, like there's certain movies I'd watch. Like I would watch Wild Hogs. I'm like, yo, where does Martin Lawrence, Tim Allen, uh, where in the world do these guys
John
meet?
Travolta.
John Travolta. How do you guys meet? And it just to me it ain't real. It's like nah, we have to go off a checkbox and add this black guy in there. Um, I don't I think it's I think they need to be more thorough. You have to make sure. You can't just make sure now because now companies that actually aren't really associated that probably had they probably Sweet Baby Inc probably called them and they turned them down, and because of that, Sweet Baby Inc called you. Oh my God! Like the girl flipping your phone over because your best friend
Sent
who
you a wink
happens to
eye
be a
emoji.
girl
Right.
sent you a wink eye emoji, and you had I'm like, what? That's how she is. She's just a playful person, and so now you flipping tables. Ah, I'm like, to what extent? Be thorough. You're slowly turning into you're slowly being poisoned by the people that you say you're not associating with because they ride that coattail and now they dressed up in the same costume as you, and then now you're like, yo, I'm not with this guy. Me and him don't share the same views. But if you look at the tweets, they you also blindly did not you weren't thorough. He also didn't care. So your lack of being
Hmm.
thorough in a response lines up with him being fully raged on and fully being a racist if he was, you know. It's not to say that I understand there's a lot of passion behind a lot of people's and there's people who aren't accustomed to talking a lot. Now they feel forced to talk. So that's another thing. Like there's a lot of people that were
But
quiet before now, you know. It's not an
that's
excuse.
fine. That's fine. Yeah, right. I just don't
Yeah,
think it's
it's
like you
not an
said. It's not an
excuse.
excuse, bro.
But
Mm.
yeah, I think what's his name? Mighty Keith. Mighty Keith did a good skit. And black. And, like he did a good skit and it made sense. Cause to me it's like, yo, like, okay, certain characters, to me, certain characters, the argument, well, it's a fictional world. Who cares if they change? Well, then who cares if they did it? So it does matter.
Hmm.
It does matter.
Hmm.
So you can't say that. That's not a good standing point to defend diversity. I would say let it be organic and natural. Um, to say that people to push back to say like, okay, like I have a hard time saying if the kid is enjoying playing in mud, uh, let him play. And I would say okay, but it's just for me, it's just like, but like, there's he's clearly gonna pay for that.
But I
You know what I'm saying?
right. But I
And it's
think
just
that
yeah,
ties into what Tim says of like you don't like this, which is fine, right? The thing that like I think the bigger conversation too here that like it's a personal pet peeve of mine is like I hate when there is criticism with no solution. I hate nothing drives me up a wall as an adult when you're like, I don't like this. Okay, that's fair. You're more than welcome to articulate and elaborate
or
on
you
why
just
you
say
don't
it
like this.
sucks without explaining, without any
Right.
good
You
points.
you say nothing. Yeah. What
Yeah,
would be the alternative? Okay, if I don't like this game, if this game gives me the red flags of this, that, and that, what game should I be playing instead? Oh, I don't know.
and
They haven't
that's
made it.
and that's what I'm trying
But
to
it
That's
get
it.
to, bro.
requires that because you know what that is. It requires work.
Mm.
It requires work, and that's what I'm saying, bro. Everybody, always has a rebuttal, but then the solutions require work. It
Yeah,
Yeah.
requires work. It requires input. Oh, but I'm not getting paid for that. Okay, then be quiet.
And be
yeah.
quiet. Then be
Like
quiet.
for example, I personally I don't like Dark what's the name from One Punch Man? Not Dark Moonshine, Dark Shine.
Oh, Dark Shine. Mm.
Yeah, after finding his origin, I was like, oh, okay, this ain't really a character
Yeah.
that I like anymore. Cause I just thought the
Mm.
origin story was so ridiculous. I'm like, yo, what? So he's
Right. He was never black.
He was never
Then
black, but
okay.
you obviously drew him to look black, right? So,
Yeah, that
and it's
nose
just
is very distinct, but
very
okay.
distinct. But hey, all right. So is Kid Muscle, right? But okay, he's not a luchador from space, but okay. And it's just with that right there, it's just I think the duality is it's like a like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because okay, so then at what point can you make a character of diversity, right?
Which is right,
So because
right.
it's like, okay, I understand. I wouldn't go out of my way to change Superman. I wouldn't go out of my way to change a lot of characters. I wouldn't do that personally because I'm like, yo, I'm comfortable. I'm so comfortable in being black. Superman doesn't have to be black for me to feel okay and to feel like I like
Enjoy certain aspects of his
to enjoy
character
certain
and
aspects of his
storylines.
character and his
Absolutely,
storyline.
absolutely.
I don't care that Bruce Wayne is white. I'm kid. Batman is Batman to me, man. That's still my dog. I don't care. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Um, if you're gonna, for me, I'd rather create something new. I'm a champion Static Shock to the day I die. I love Static, right? I love John Stewart. I love that he was a part of the original of the Justice League. I love John Stewart, right? I also like
Hmm.
Hal Jordan. But the thing is with the Green Lantern, they cover other Green Lanterns. You got Guy Gardner, right? You got
Hmm.
Kyle Rayner. You have different Green Lanterns, and so they cover different storylines of different Green Lanterns.
Hmm.
And for me, it's like, okay, when can I make a character that's black? Because it's now every black character you see is like, yeah, I'm not interested because
Here we
because
go.
now it
Here we
turns in
go. Yeah,
now it turns into like you got to be careful. Now it turns into like, yo, I don't like this character because it what you're trying not to say, you wind up saying. You know what I'm saying? That
that's why I
card that
said
you
before. Like, I'm not even calling him a racist. I'm like, but that's the energy it gives off. That's the
yeah,
energy it
and
gives
it's
off. Like,
like,
you are literally saying the fact that she showed up as black, red flag. What
I could
for an original
understand.
IP?
I could understand. Yeah, I could understand the Little Mermaid. I never co-opt that. I could understand the Little Mermaid.
Hmm.
The people that say,
Hmm.
well, it's not fit. But like, then you didn't have to change it. If it really didn't matter, you didn't have to change a thing. So you have to be like be fair, be be really not be fair and also be thorough on like your thoughts and how you're gonna present this argument. Because it's like, okay, if you really say it doesn't matter, it's fictional, then they didn't have to change a thing, right? So then, so
Hmm.
it does matter. I do care. I do want a character from Tekken to be. I do want Master Raven to come back. That's the only black female. I do, right? Do
Hmm.
I do I would I love to see it? Absolutely. I don't think there's not a person that wouldn't want to see their culture being represented in a positive manner. That's just the truth, right? Um,
That's
if I
facts.
make
Yeah,
if I make a fighting game, I'm not making a fighting game. I want to experience the other cultures and other fighting styles. That's what makes the fighting game beautiful. Like you get what I'm saying? Unless you were trying to tell
absolutely.
a very distinct story. So for me, I'm not really. I mean, I've grown to the point with those tweets, I kind of just brush it off. I've also noticed that like you guys are blurring the lines between who racist and who really isn't because now you guys almost sound the same. I don't have a magnifying glass to see your heart. You get what I'm saying? So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
we us being
Which goes
both
back to what Tim
lazy.
said. Like, we don't even know if that how if you feel this way for real.
Yeah, go back to Tim to piggyback on what Tim said again. Like us being both lazy to each other is gonna cause more harm because it's gonna take work for on both sides, right? If I make a game, if I make
Hmm.
an anime, they're not gonna. I would be heartbroken because they wouldn't want to watch my anime because the class is predominantly black. But I watch your anime and it's
Mm.
predominantly Asian, and I don't complain. I'm here to enjoy the story.
I'm
If I
locked
watch a
in.
Bo-
Actually.
if I watch a Bollywood film, I'm not gonna um I'm not gonna be mad. I love R&R. That movie that movie is flames. And you've introduced me into a level, yeah, and you've introduced me into a level of films that I'm like, man, these guys are growing in their craft, and I love to see that. And now it's just now, okay, man, when's the next Bollywood film that's about to drop so I could watch that? Now you got a fan.
Hmm.
So I would love to see that be reciprocated, in a perfect world, I would love to see that. But I understand, like, to those people that hate DEI, I just want you guys to be aware of how um close you are to thinning distinctions of the people that actually are racist and the people who aren't. I can understand how you
Hmm.
feel. There's a lot of things that I agree with those people because for me, like when I look at the state of Xbox, I'm just like, man, who are you guys, man? You guys remind me of the characters from Demolition Man. And to save the world, to combat Simon Phoenix, you needed to call back John Spartan to save the day. You needed to get that guy from the same era, who broke some of the rules, who didn't mind being
Hmm.
edgy. Like, we need Kyle Urban's Judge Dredd ahead of Xbox. That's how I feel. For it to come back into
No,
fruition, to be competitive.
right.
Like
I
Sony
do.
has evolved into the T1000. That's what I see when I see Sony. Like we're
Mm,
gonna spread the Skynet across the globe. Like Sony is already ran by Mr. Smith. That's how I feel. I'm like, oh, okay, well, Mr. Smith it's inevitable. So, I'm just that's how I see that's what I see when I see Sony, right? But they're eating themselves, of course. You already know how that went in the Matrix.
like everybody
Um,
else. Hmm.
yeah. So,
I
but
think. I think ultimately. Yeah. I
let me
think
know if
ultimately. I
I'm
don't.
if
Like.
I'm
I think
if
we
I'm
can
making
come.
my thoughts clear. If I'm kind of
No.
like
It's makes perfectly clear. I think all your points, all your references are like spot on. Right. I think we're all giving our own takes on like the overall thing of like you have. I just think in this particular case of like it's like when you see someone who you know is smart manipulating someone who's maybe not as intellectually gifted. And I'm not saying people that like hop on the, these things are bad are not intelligent in their own way. But we're all human beings. We all have our own emotional triggers, right? We all know what certain things, what certain phrases, what certain keywords kind of causes the logical thinking to turn off for even if it's for just a second to react, right?
yeah.
And I feel like in this era of clickbaiting, rage baiting, as long as I do the numbers, that check's still going to clear. For someone to come from, especially from a game developer side where you have more insight on how things can change on a whim, like Tim said, you see those pre-concept, pre-rendered builds, and it's an entirely different game.
That's
It
how
don't
Faku
even
Ramen came
look like the
about.
final product. That's
That's
how all of them came up. I told
yeah,
y'all,
that's
Sora
yeah.
from Kingdom Hearts had a tail. A tail. He was half Simba, half Sora.
So did Raiden.
Right. So you know what I'm saying? That's that you as a game developer know more than anyone else how things can change like this. That's normal. So for you to say if this company was involved in any way, it's a non-binary game. That's you're using your like what you're doing and you're using your program your platform irresponsibly.
Now
That's
if
all. That's what it boils down to.
now if he forget to mention certain information to where like okay now if we start to hear a pattern of speech and rhetoric
Then absolutely. Then
then
absolutely.
I listen,
Absolutely.
it's unavoidable. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, like I'm not totally against those people that take that side where, let's bring the pitchforks to Sweet Baby Inc. or DEI, because I can see where it does harm because it's not done in a matter to where it's organic, it feels forced, and it's like you're gonna accept me or else type attitude. And that's not the way you make any friends. And so they don't do
Mm-hmm.
that correctly. We have to admit that. Like, they don't do that correctly. They don't. Like, you have to
Mm-hmm.
understand who's your market. If I'm going to make a game, Sam, who did you think the market was for when they made Def Jam Fight for New York? Who did you think the market was for? Like, let's be real. Who did you think the market was
Yeah.
for? Like,
Yeah.
and guess what? If I right now were to go to New York and say, yo, Def Jam Fight for New York, hey, run it, hey, you gonna get the same energy. We gonna hear lines from Wayne, the Prefix album. We gonna hear 50 Cent's tracks, Ludacris track. we already know who the market was for, right? Like, if
Mm-hmm.
your product is for a group of people, predominantly men, they're not attracted to certain things. They're not, they want the product they're purchasing to be a certain way. You have those people that are very different, but then at the same time, you have the people that aren't. And that's
Um,
okay. You know what I'm saying? But it's
but
like,
that's also a generalization as well. That's also a generalization because there's different types of men. There are many different types of men and different in this world. Like, yes, that I would say that's the stigma, I would say,
Mm.
due to, I would say the time period. Like, for example, like, I know this was a very controversial topic at the time, like, but you remember Billy, the original, Blue Power Ranger, like, and
Mm.
the rumors around the time of his sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
and it impacted the show, things of that nature. Because like I get it, like in that time, that was like grab your torch and
Yeah.
pitchforks because that the type of industry did not, it was not safe. It was not safe for people of different types. Now I do feel like fast forward to the future, like there is there is more respect for that, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's actually good. That is actually very much healthy because I don't feel like people should live in fear
Yeah.
for who they are. Like you know, and the way my philosophy is this person a pedophile? Is this person a rapist? No. It's just the simple fact that, yes, people want to see themselves in a product. They want to see themselves because even for me, like, one of my biggest dreams is, Caribbean anime for, I wouldn't even just say for kids, but just for everybody because I want my people to see themselves
Mm.
in a particular format. So that requires intense research about our folklore. And yes, when it gets to some to our folklore, I do realize, hey, certain Christian communities from our cultural background might not like that
Mm.
because it starts to talk about that heavy Afrocentric talk about like, African gods, figures and that. And I get it, that's not their cup of tea. But then the thing about it is, this is still part of who we are in a sense. And I do feel like there are some people who love these stories. They love these ghost stories. They love like the expression of like, hey, don't touch this particular tree in the savannah because you remember the curse.
Mm.
And that stuff like it gives you life. It really does give you life, man. It's just like I do feel like just it's just the overall toxicity of the industry, man. Like everybody's trying to like they're showcasing how they feel in their hearts. There are certain people, bro. Like yes, like and I would say this out loud. There are certain heterosexual men who hate women.
Mm.
Like yes, they will have sex with women, they will procreate with women, but they hate women.
Mm.
They hate women. Like they believe women should be in a certain place of life, and that's it. Like like a child, you can be seen but not heard. There are some people who carry those types of views, bro. And we have many different terms for them, like whether like archaic or very traditional or even sometimes conservative. It's just like we are living in a melting pot of a world, but how can we establish a form of harmony? And that's why I feel like that's what my focus is. Harmony. How can we live amongst each other and operate and coexist amongst each other without trying to destroy one another? And it's tough. It really is tough. Because I get it when it comes to different art, I would say art formats. People are very picky. They're very, very picky. And certain things are also, I would say and this is why I hate pop culture, because certain things come from a very pop culture type of view, and I kind of feel like when you come at that from that perspective, you kind of ignore the details. Because I do feel like when it comes to full representation, you need to do some very intense research. Um,
I would agree.
yeah,
I
like
think
when I, you done?
I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna say,
Yeah,
like,
go ahead.
I think that the thing with this is, ultimately the hope is that you want to incorporate these things because you're right, Tim. We're not a monolith. We're not a monolith of men. We're not a monolith of women. We're not a monolith of however people identify. But I think the thing that's getting lost, to S Rank's point, is organic inclusion and organic storytelling. So using Dragon Age Velguard as an example, right? It's not even so much of the go woke, go broke, go woke, go and get nominated. That's like, listen, this is horrible writing across the board. If this was your whole thing, and we're going to include this type of character and make that a staple point in the series, I'm here to tell you, you worried about the wrong things, because everything else in this game sounds like an HR training meeting of how not to offend your coworker.
Hmm.
These are not human beings talking to each other. So
An
that, to me,
80s
I'm like,
video
that's
on
not
how not to get bullied. Stop! Don't punch me. And that's how you stop a bully.
If you say this, this is verbal harassment in the workplace. Like that's literally how that dialogue sounds. So like, to that, I think you're right. I think the goal should be harmony, but I think it's there's been too many times now where a story or a concept or a plot or a character has suffered for the almost like tunnel vision on the, we got to show this no matter what.
Yeah, I mean with the whole generalization, I mean, I understand like we do have very specific, and not everybody's exactly the same, but I like within a family, I think I think for me for being for that part, I think it's okay for me to say that. Um, like if I'm gonna sell a product to a specific type of people, generally this is how it goes. I'll take care of this, and then from that generalization, of course, I can sort down the parts of pies that we the parts of pies and the pie chart will have their own color in their section to basically
Oh
come a
no,
part of the
yeah,
whole.
for sure.
And that's all I was
In an
saying.
ideal world, Stellar Blade can exist just like Life is Strange can exist. Just like there's certain things where it's like you to your point, there shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Well, I can't have any hot women in my game. That doesn't make any sense. Right? That's not logical. Right? I think you're allowed to appeal to that audience without
And then
saying you can't have this.
and at the
You
same
know?
time, like going back to what I'm saying, if I look and see who's buying my game, and it's not the people that's Life of Strange people, why would I try to infuse Life of Strange content into that said type of game? Like, you know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like when you look at how Gears of War was built, I don't want to see Aloy's storyline infiltrating Gears of War. You know what I'm saying? Gears of War is classic Spike TV,
No,
Blue
it's
Mountain State written writers, and so on and so forth. And that's how I feel.
yeah,
Or
it's understandable. Like
yeah. And so like within that market, if you build a market separate, new IP, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. That makes a lot of sense. But if it's an already existing market with an already existing group of fans and people, you know, you do run the risk. You can go ahead and do that. You can go ahead and do something new, but don't be surprised at the results you get. Right? When people get Mass Effect, I don't want to play Mass Effect for it to feel like I'm playing uh give me a third person shooter like Gears of War. I want that tactical element and storytelling with my choice of speech and my story direction choices and compelling villains, and do I want to make a relationship with this person? Do I want to befriend this person? XYZ. I want that from my Mass Effect game because that's what I remember. And that's what's fresh in our minds. It's gone are the days to where like Mass Effect, I gotta go buy an NES to play Mass Effect. It's right there. I could pop in next Sunday and I'm like, man, I wish they made a new one. It's still fresh. And so
mm.
that's all I was saying. If like the Tekken market, Tekken fighters don't want it to play like Super Smash Brothers, don't do that. Don't do that. That's crazy. But if you want to make a new
Uh,
fighting game, go ahead.
and then to also go back to Grumm's point, I also feel like with this being a new IP, that means it's a clean slate.
Yeah.
It's a clean slate in terms of story, flow, projection, and because to be honest, it probably might not even be a series. It could just
Yeah,
be
a
it
one
could just
of.
be a one and done adventure. And I've played many games like that where it felt so good. Like we don't need no more of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is going to stay in my mind as a particular example of this. Like I remember there was this one game that I played called Abzu, where you're literally just exploring the depths of like this vast ocean, and it's like you're literally getting lost and immersed into this world of like, wow, like this was very beautiful. The art style was very beautiful. It had some like story elements to it that made you wonder, but it stuck to a theme that it was to make you wonder. And it was a fresh new game. And to be honest, I don't want another part two. I don't. It can stay exactly at this. So with this, like, I get it. Like, he may have a personal vendetta against the company, but it's just a simple fact, man. People are still hiring him for a reason. That means they are obviously reaching a level of quality that it is substantial in this, I would say, industry, marketplace, whatever. And they are doing their due diligence. And, you also got to understand is like, people are also growing as they continue to hone their craft. Like, and, me, you, we've known each other for years, bro. I remember when you used to rap. And, look at where you are now in terms of just like how you do your art and how you present yourself out there in the world that, bro, you got commercials with your face out there now. And then, Jory, you yourself, like you probably able to compare your level of your artistry from sketchbooks that you did from high school to where you are now. So it's all about a journey, man. And I do kind of feel like it goes back to that. We do need a reset in this gaming industry if we're ever supposed to continue with it. And I do feel like these new IPs that are filling up this gap, this void, could be that. But I do realize, due to the certain, I would say, trends of the world, there's just a lot of things being attacked that are also kind of snuffing out growth.
Yeah,
in certain areas. Like, for example, like, Joey made a very grand point, bro. Like Prince of Persia, like I did the research. I was like, bro, so they basically went back to formula. Like the first Prince of Persia was a side scroll, like Metroidvania type style. And it's like, it worked. Yeah, his hairstyle, y'all could have did better. But it was a very appealing character. The magic and the combat was on point. You could have built off this, like, and it was a good breath of fresh air from the constant sands of time. Even though you had some elements in there,
as you should. Was not the typical world.
Yeah, it was not the typical another sands of time story. Because to be honest, bro, how many times are we gonna do that? So yeah, so I mean, we'll see how things stand the test of time.
That's a good closing point on the topic. I'm sure this is going to come up again because this is just the industry we're in right now. And until that reset truly happens, someone somewhere will say something that will set us all off again. It's just, I think in this reset, I think encompassing everything, that there should be a push at least to appeal to certain audiences that are going to buy these games, right? Like I don't have to, as somebody who's kind of moved away from turn-based combat, hop on the Metaphor Fantasio bandwagon just because it's selling millions. I don't have to. They have an audience and they made their money. You know what I'm saying? They made their money. They don't need me. I was like, that's okay. That is okay.
That is okay.
And I think that should just be the format for most people. Like, especially with a new IP. I can't stress it, especially with unproven territory. Just shut up. Like, and let this game do whatever it does.